Welcome to Seeing Green Solutions for Our Daily Lives, the podcast where we spotlight the brands, ideas, and people making it easier to live sustainably every day. Today's episode is part of our Greening My series, where we unpack our homes and our everyday routines to explore practical ways to make them a bit more sustainable. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Seeing Green podcast. For our 38th episode, we return to our Greening My series, where we take different parts of our homes and daily lives and explore them through a sustainability lens. This is the 6th episode in the series, following greening my bathroom, bedroom, closet, pet care, and meal kits. Wow, we're really working our way around your homes. You can find these episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at seeinggreen.eco. Today's topic is a favorite among the Seeing Green community, and honestly, for your co-host too, Greening My Happy Hour, exploring the sustainability of spirits, wine, and beer. We'll start with a look at their environmental footprint, then turn to the innovators reimagining how we drink. As always, we'll focus on solutions and optimism, not doom, but progress. And we'll feature plenty of brands leading the way. A few notes before we get started. Please be of legal drinking age in your location. Always drink responsibly. And remember, some of the world's largest beverage companies are making progress. Our passion at Seeing Green is usually for spotlighting the smaller, innovative, sometimes disruptive brands, rethinking how drinks are made, packaged, and enjoyed. So that's who you will hear about today, the Solutionists proving that sustainability and great taste can go hand in hand. Okay, let's get started. We want to unpack the crop-to-cocktail resource chain. Happy hour might feel effortless for you, the listener, but every sip has this complex, resource-intensive journey behind it.
It really does. It's a massive footprint that starts, right on the farm.
Right.
All these categories, spirits, wine, and beer, rely on agricultural inputs, whether that's grains, grapes, or sugarcane.
And that farming takes a lot of resources.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Significant water, fertilizers, energy, and that often leads to runoff impacting soil health and local waterways, too. It's a big initial hit.
Okay, so that's the growing part. And once those raw ingredients are harvested, the production process hits hard too, I imagine.
Definitely. Distilling, brewing, fermentation. They are notoriously energy and water intensive. Think about all the heating and cooling needed to manage those processes.
Yeah, I can picture that.
It truly is significant. If you look at wine, for example, it's actually startling. When you factor in everything, vineyard irrigation, cleaning, processing, a single bottle of wine can take hundreds of liters of water to produce.
Hundreds? Wow. That's more than I would have guessed.
It is. And beer brewing is also a significant consumer, generating large amounts of wastewater and also spent grain byproduct that producers need to manage responsibly.
But what often surprises people, I think, is that the biggest unseen carbon hit often comes right at the end. Packaging and shipping. Is that right?
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. The weight of heavy single-use glass bottles plus the logistics of transport, that often generates more carbon emissions than the actual brewing or distilling process did.
Right. It seems counterintuitive almost.
It does. But the good news is that this challenge has created this enormous opportunity for change. We are now seeing a sort of rapid acceleration toward lighter glass, paper bottles, aluminum cans, and even some quite sophisticated take-back and reuse programs.
So the core takeaway here is simple then. Every single stage of the alcohol supply chain, from like the seed in the ground to the bottle arriving at your door, offers an immediate opportunity for innovation in how things are grown, made, and moved.
Exactly. And that leads us neatly into the vision for sustainable drinks. It really means adopting a holistic approach.
Holistic how?
Well, sustainable producers assess inputs. Are they using renewable energy? Are they using local crops? Do they have water reuse systems? They look critically at their operations. Are they using closed-loop systems, regenerative partnerships, waste recovery?
Okay, so it's the whole picture.
It is. The ultimate goal isn't necessarily perfection overnight, but measurable progress. It's about minimizing environmental harm while maintaining the craft, quality, and importantly, the flavor we all expect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why we see so many innovators embracing these grain-to-glass or farm-to-bottle models. They want to ensure their beverages reflect a true sense of place, but with a dramatically lighter planetary footprint.
Okay, let's dive in then. Let's start our deep dive with spirits. Historically, vodka, gin, rum, whiskey, they rely on intensive distillation and are traditionally packaged in heavy glass. So innovation here is focusing hard on carbon performance and resource circularity.
That's right. And we have a remarkable cluster of companies aiming for climate positive or even carbon negative status, really leading the charge.
Okay, who should we look at?
Well, up in Scotland, Arbikie Highland Estate is truly fueled to bottle. They're using green hydrogen and solar energy, which is pretty cutting edge.
Green hydrogen, wow. And what's fascinating about Arbikie, I read, is their raw material choice, especially their Nadar line. It's made from peas.
Yes. Peas. It sounds like a radical step, doesn't it?
It really does. Why peas?
Well, it's specifically to avoid nitrogen fertilizer, which is a huge source of agricultural emissions. By using peas, a legume, they fix their own nitrogen.
Ah, okay.
So it results in a naturally carbon-negative product simply by growing the core ingredient without that high-emission input. It's quite clever.
That is clever. Who else is in this climate-positive space?
Then there's Two Drifters Distillery in the UK. They claim to be the world's first carbon-negative rum.
Carbon negative. How do they achieve that?
They pair renewable energy in the distillery and electric deliveries with the major step of permanent carbon capture and removal. They partner with Climeworks and Carbfix to literally mineralize captured CO2 into stone deep underground.
Okay, that's serious carbon tech.
Yeah.
It raises an interesting question for you, the conscious consumer. When evaluating a spirit, how do we weigh that kind of direct carbon capture, which addresses unavoidable emissions, versus genuine process changes, like Arbikie using peas or Antion using biomass?
That's a great question. Look, both methods are crucial. Avoidance through process change is always best, reducing the problem at the source. But when you can't avoid all emissions, permanent removal via partners like Climeworks is arguably the gold standard compared to, say, standard forestation offsets, which can be less permanent.
Got it. So avoidance first, then high-quality removal.
Precisely. We should also mention Sapling Spirits. They're another carbon-negative brand. Their approach is planting a GPS-traceable tree for every bottle sold.
Ah, the tree planting model.
Yes, but traceable, which adds accountability. And they're pushing the envelope with packaging, too, using lightweight glass and even aluminum mini bottles, which they partnered with Virgin Atlantic on for travel.
Okay, so that's the carbon negative focus.
Yeah.
Let's shift to circularity and resource efficiency. The brand's treating their waste streams like gold.
Yeah, this is another huge area. Eller's Farm Distillery in the UK is a great case study in efficiency. They're B Corp certified, too.
What are they doing specifically?
Well, they achieved a dramatic cut in their energy consumption last year, by more than half, actually. That's huge.
Yeah.
And they reuse 98% of their processed water.
Wow, 98%. That's almost a closed loop.
It's very close. Their packaging is also smart bottles made with 68% recycled glass and 40% lighter than average. And they are exploring complex chemical upcycling, trying to turn their apple waste into something called struvite.
Struvite.
Yeah, it's a slow-release fertilizer, so really closing that loop.
That philosophy of local circularity seems strong in the U.S., too. Tell us about La Crosse Distilling Co. in Wisconsin.
Right. La Crosse is fantastic. They're certified, organic, field to still, sourcing grains within just 20 miles. They use geothermal energy, which has this preheating system that cuts their boiler energy demand by up to 30%.
30% is significant.
It really is. And critically, they repurpose nearly 2 million pounds of spent grain and water annually back to local farms. That's about 95% recovery of that byproduct. They also upcycle aging barrels up to 3 times.
Amazing local symbiosis there. What about whiskey?
Whistlepig Whiskey in Vermont is doing great work. They focus on sustainable and regenerative rye farming. The farm and distillery are 100% solar powered.
Fully solar. Nice.
And 100% of their distillery waste is converted to renewable natural energy. So very tight system.
And the Boatyard Distillery in Northern Ireland, they have a similar farm-to-bottle ethos.
They do. Also B Corp certified. They send their stillage, the liquid waste, to local farmers for cattle feed. And get this, they reuse their spent botanicals from gin making to flavored chocolate.
Chocolate. That's creative.
Isn't it? It's an incredibly tight circular system.
Speaking of radical material choices and upcycling, let's talk about those who use unexpected ingredients.
Yes. Wayward Spirit is just genius. They take excess weight, the massive liquid byproduct from cheese making and distill it into a spirit.
So they're directly tackling dairy waste.
Exactly. It diverts that way from potentially becoming a pollutant and creates a unique product. It's pure circular economy thinking.
That's brilliant. And then there's using wonky produce.
Right, like Penrose Spirits. They use surplus or wonky fruit and botanicals from their farm in their gin, things that might otherwise be wasted just because they don't look perfect.
Good for them. Reduces food waste.
Totally. And they've also ditched heavy glass entirely, opting for 100% recycled aluminum bottles. It really proves that ingredients that don't meet cosmetic standards can still create a superior tasting product.
And that whole wonky fruit, ready-to-drink idea is scaling up, isn't it?
It is. Served makes ready-to-drink cocktails using naturally sourced surplus or wonky fruit. They're also certified carbon negative, so it combines waste reduction with carbon action.
Okay, lots happening in spirits. Before we leave this category, we should also acknowledge the mission-driven brands, the ones tied to specific ecosystems or causes.
Absolutely. Gray Whale Gin is a lovely example. Their botanicals are sourced along the California gray whale migration route.
Oh, interesting.
And they're sustainably foraged, like deneedling living fir trees, not cutting them down. They use organic paint on the bottles, biodegradable corks, and pledge 1% of sales to Oceania for marine conservation.
A very clear connection there.
Then there's Avallen Spirits. They make a climate-positive Calvados, which is an apple brandy. Their mission is focused on bees. They donate at least 2% of their turnover to organizations dedicated to saving bee populations.
Protecting pollinators, crucial.
Yeah.
Anyone else.
And Holistic Spirits Co. makes spirits infused with natural ingredients. They're produced at a USDA green-certified wind-powered distillery, plant a tree for every bottle, and hold both B Corp and the Positive Luxury Butterfly Mark certifications.
Wow, ticking a lot of boxes there.
Yeah, very committed. And we can't overlook the B2B players, the industry enablers that make sustainability easier for the entire sector, especially bars and restaurants.
Like reusable systems.
Exactly. EcoSpirits is the big one here. They developed this closed-loop reusable container system called EcoTotes. For a bar using it, it can reduce packaging waste by up to 95% and the carbon footprint by 90%. It's transformative for the on-trade.
95% waste reduction is huge for a busy bar.
It's massive. And then for home consumers, or maybe smaller producers, there's Frugal Pack. They created the Frugal Bottle, the world's first commercially available paper bottle.
A paper bottle for spirits and wine. How does that work?
It's made from 94% recycled paperboard with a food-grade pouch inside. It has an 84% lower carbon footprint than a typical glass bottle.
84% lower.
Yeah.
Packaging is truly where some of the biggest systemic change is happening, isn't it?
Without a doubt. Lighter materials, recycled content, innovative formats like paper or reuse systems. It's a hotbed of innovation. And we didn't even touch on Sustainaholics, who focus on 100% recycled aluminum miniature bottles, the Illumini for travel and hospitality, cutting the footprint of those little bottles by up to 90%.
Okay, that's a really powerful overview of the spirit sector. So much innovation. Now let's shift our attention to wine. Wine faces a different set of primary challenges, right? More centered on the vineyard itself.
That's generally true, yes. Vineyard management is key. Water use, pesticide impacts, climate sensitivity is a big one for grapes. And just like spirits, wine has historically suffered from the heavy glass bottle problem, especially for shipping.
So wineries are responding by embracing things like regenerative and organic viticulture, biodynamic practices, and again, shifting their formats drastically.
Exactly. And some big names are leading. Silver Oak Cellars in California is a massive leader here. They were actually one of the first production wineries in the world to achieve a LEED Platinum certification for their buildings, making sure they're using water incredibly efficiently, only where and when it's needed.
Smart farming tech.
Very smart. And their Alexander Valley facility is a solar powerhouse. It generates 105% of the energy they consume on site.
Wow, energy positive. That kind of self-sufficiency sets an incredible standard for a large winery.
It really does. Jackson Family Wines is another giant making major commitments. They're aiming to cut their carbon emissions by half by 2030 and be climate positive by 2050.
Ambitious goals for a huge portfolio.
Very. They've installed more on-site solar than any other U.S. winery. And like Silver Oak, they have implemented a comprehensive lightweight glass program using bottles with over 50% recycled content.
It seems like these large established wineries are really proving that scale and sustainability don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can drive big change.
They absolutely can. But we also see innovation in format from smaller players, like Just Enough Wines. Their focus is entirely on offering wine in highly recyclable aluminum cans.
Cans for wine seem to be getting more popular. What are the benefits?
Well, cans are great because they offer better space efficiency in shipping, reduced packaging weight, and they are inherently lighter to transport than glass. Plus, Just Enough Wines is a member of 1% for the Planet, dedicating revenue to environmental causes.
Good points. Lightweight, recyclable, portion control maybe.
All of the above. And we must recognize the pioneers who really led the way in sustainable farming decades ago, like Bonterra Organic Vineyards and Frog's Leap Winery.
Yes, longtime leaders.
They've been adopting regenerative farming practices and rethinking their packaging and delivery models for a very long time. They really proved early on that organic and sustainable methods are the foundation for quality wine.
Absolutely. Okay, wine covered. Finally, let's look at beer. Brewing is famously resource intensive, right? I remember hearing stats about water use.
Oh, yeah. The rule of thumb is often 3 to 7 liters of water to produce just 1 liter of beer, sometimes more. Plus, there's significant energy needed for heating the mash, boiling the wort, then cooling for fermentation, and of course, transport.
So a thirsty process. How are brewers responding?
With really rigorous closed-loop systems in many cases, things like intense water recovery and treatment, co-euros recapture during fermentation because yeast produces a lot of CO2 and leveraging renewable power sources.
Who's doing this well?
Valley Brewing Co. in California is a huge pioneer. They became the world's first solar-powered brewery way back in 2005.
2005, they were way ahead of the curve.
Way ahead. They run a zero-impact water program, which means they treat and recycle 100% of their wastewater on site. It doesn't leave the property.
That's incredible. A truly closed water loop.
It is, and their dedication to circularity is complete. They also achieved net zero solid waste. 100% of their spent grain and yeast goes to local farms for cattle feed.
And packaging.
They switched entirely to aluminum cans and plastic-free packaging like cardboard rings. They calculated this reduced their trucking needs by nearly 60% compared to shipping glass bottles. That is massive efficiency.
60% reduction in trucking. Huge savings there. What about ingredients, regenerative grains?
Yes, that's emerging too. The Gypsy Hill Brewing Co. in London launched 2 carbon-negative brews specifically when served on draft from a keg.
How do they manage carbon-negative beer?
By using regenerative barley sourced from a group called Wild Farmed. This farming method actively sequesters carbon in the soil, so the raw ingredient itself has a negative footprint, which helps offset the brewing emissions. They also recapture and reuse their hops.
It's amazing to see that marriage of advanced farm practices and sophisticated brewing technology coming together.
It really is. And we should also nod to some major players who are driving change from within the industry, like New Belgium Brewing. They were pioneers in B Corp and sustainability reporting, plus Brooklyn Brewery and Dogfish Head. They're all making significant strides in reducing energy loads and finding innovative ways to turn their brewing waste, like spent grain, into value, perhaps through partnerships or energy generation.
Good to see the big guys involved, too.
Definitely. And just a quick note before we wrap up this section, we focused mostly on the alcohol itself today, the spirits, wine, beer. But future deep dives will definitely need to cover mixers, garnishes, ice, even glassware. Those are also massive areas for sustainability innovation in your happy hour.
Good point. The tonic water, the lime, the fancy reusable straw. It all adds up.
Every element counts.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of amazing brands and innovations. What does this all mean for you, the listener? I think fundamentally, greening your happy hour is about turning an indulgence into an act of, well, profound awareness.
I agree. And we have clearly seen that sustainability drives innovation, and often it actually leads to higher quality and better flavor. Think about Lacrosse Distilling's commitment to hyperlocal grains giving a unique terroir, or the specialized processes that make Arbikie's Nadar P gin stand out.
Yeah, it's not about sacrifice. It's about seeking out the good stuff.
Exactly. The choices you make are highly impactful. So here are 3 actionable tips for greening your happy hour starting today.
Okay, let's hear them. Tip 1. Try a new brand. Don't just default to the big names you always buy. Pick one of the brands we talked about, maybe a carbon-negative distillery like Two Drifters, or a regenerative vineyard pioneer like Bonterra, or a truly circular brewer like Anderson Valley. Make exploring part of the fun.
Great first step. Tip 2. Try a new format. Mix it up. Choose wine in a can from someone like Just Enough, or a box wine which has a much lower footprint than bottles. Look for a lightweight glass bottle or even a paper bottle like Frugal Pack offers if you see one.
And check for local options too, right?
Absolutely. If your favorite local brewery or distillery offers a refill or return option for their growlers or bottles, take advantage of it immediately. That's direct reuse.
Excellent. And tip 3, try it with friends. This is key. Add a signature sustainable drink to your next gathering, maybe something local, lower impact packaging, or from a planet positive brand like Avallen or Grey Whale. Make the choice itself part of the conversation.
Yeah, sharing the story behind the drink makes it more meaningful and encourages wider adoption. It starts conversations.
Definitely great tips.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over, thinking back to that two drifters model we discussed. If a relatively small distillery like them can successfully internalize the true cost of their carbon emissions, actually investing in expensive capture technology, and then use that cost as a driver for greater efficiency and ultimately profitability.
Okay.
Why shouldn't every major corporation in every single sector be strongly incentivized or perhaps even required to adopt a similar financial model, a model where carbon avoidance or removal directly increases their profit margins?
That's a really powerful question. Shifting the whole economic incentive structure around emissions, something to definitely think about. Interested in learning more about creating a greener, more sustainable home and daily life? Check out the other episodes of the Seeing Green podcast, both the Spotlight series and the Greening My series, and please subscribe while you are it. You also can join the Seeing Green community by signing up on the Seeing Green website, where you can see more trailblazers making significant strides in promoting eco-friendly living through innovative products, solutions, and practices online at www.seeinggreen.eco. And follow us at Seeing Green Eco across social media channels for all the latest tips and solutions. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Greening My series on the Seeing Green podcast. Until next time.
This episode is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult relevant experts when making changes to your home, health, or habits.